Hello, welcome to Monte Carlo to Marlow. This podcast is sponsored by the Marlow Living Loyalty app. Welcome to Monte Carlo to Marlow. We're here with Alice in the Marlow Museum.
Hi, nice to be here.
And if only you could just about see the visit museum. So it's such a tiny, cute little building, and you're trying to make it sort of mightier than it is. Tell us about how you got involved with the Marlow Museum.
Well, it was about 6 months ago. I saw an advert looking for somebody to kind of manage the museum because it's been in existence for 15 years, but has been volunteer run. So was kind of born out of the community about this real kind of passion and want for Marlow's history to be told within a museum space. And at the point that they were advertising for a manager to come in, it's the kind of the first point where they're paying somebody to come and try it and kind of really take the museum forward, get behind it, be able to be a bit more present in the community and make it a bit more dynamic, really, I think.
Yeah, the exhibitions and interact a bit more with the community. So how do you get into, obviously history's a big subject, go back to what you wanted to do when you were sort of at school, thinking about studying. You studied history.
Yes, I did study history, but it was really because I didn't really know what else to do. I liked history. It was kind of a choice between history and music, and which do I go with?
The arts, then.
Into the arts, and humanities, And I went to uni to do history, and really I finished my degree. I wasn't really sure. A lot of people were going into either teaching or into law. They were kind of the two main things that people went to, and I didn't really want to do either of those. So actually I went home, like so many people do after uni, and I worked for the NSPCC for a year.
Okay.
Which, you think, well, what's that got to do with museums? But actually it was during that point, it was at a child therapy centre for children that had suffered abuse. And I really became so aware of how many children were really not being served by the education system. And, because the education system has to cater for everybody, no matter what their situation is, no matter what their ability is, I really felt there must be something somewhere that could offer people an alternative to education. And I really started to think that actually maybe something like museums would be that answer, would be that place, that we could use museums to serve a community, to create that safe place, to create a place of learning, and can still offer so much to people without fitting you into that one pathway and that one kind of box.
And maybe learning about World War One isn't that interesting, but learn about where you live and the history of your town feels a little bit more like people would be more interested in that.
Yeah. And you can direct that learning depending on what you see in those museums, and you can engage with them. You can go, volunteer with museums. You can just visit museums. You can participate in education programs or workshops, or come with your family and have conversations about all sorts of things that help you to learn and kind of ignite that interest and that curiosity.
So you worked with children then for a short time, and then did you get an offer? When was the first job?
Well, because I knew that it's really difficult to find jobs in museums. Really difficult.
And also, sort of really, while we're on that topic, did you make a conscious choice of going to a smaller community museum rather than going somewhere larger?
At that point, I didn't. So I went and did a master's because I felt like you either volunteer and you might have to work your way up through the museums, or I basically was too impatient for that. I wanted to, so I went and did a master's in museum education, and through that had a placement as part of that course. And that placement was at the Pitt Rivers Museum in Oxford. I was very, very lucky to get such an incredible museum. And it sounds crazy, but my first job out of my master's was at the British Museum for my Institute of Education master's.
The British Museum obviously was on your patch there, really. And what an amazing place to go to work.
It was, and it was incredible. And I was really lucky. I was the family's education manager there. So I did their Saturday afternoon activities, and I ran their sleepovers as well.
Oh, wow.
So, it was just incredible. And to be able to say that, my first job out of uni allowed me to sleep next to the Rosetta Stone is
incredible.
It's incredible. Yeah. And I suppose from then I've worked in kind of every type of museum, university museums, local history museums, worked at Westminster Abbey. I've worked at kind of the Roman Baths in Bath, like all sorts of different places. And gradually my interest has become in the smaller museums.
Okay.
And what smaller museums can offer their communities and how engaged with people. And my focus has become that museums, yes, they have objects, and yes, they're about the collections, but really museums are about people and about serving people and about providing for people and engaging with people and telling the stories of people.
I would imagine if you're working in a small museum as well, it's like you're more of an entrepreneur because actually, you know, it's not just about making things look pretty on shelves. You've got to do so much to keep the museum alive, to get funding, to try and get the volunteers. So there's a hell of a lot that goes into what you're doing rather than just, you know, we've got the lace exhibition at the moment, which is obviously lovely. But how do you find the balance?
I think I find it really interesting because I think museum managers are having to be, like you say, more entrepreneurial. They have to be business managers, and we have to think of our museums like small businesses. And so we suffer the challenges of small businesses, and so many don't survive, you know, their first 3 years or after they've been founded. So there is this real kind of pull between it because so many museums are also charities, have charitable purposes, and we're not profit making. So you really have to walk that fine line between generating income, but also serving your community and making sure that you're doing everything that a museum should. And now that we're an accredited museum as well, we have to abide by the kind of guidance and the UK standard for what a museum should be. So we have to look after our objects, which costs money, and store them in a professional way. We have to make sure that they're publicly accessible. So we need to be open more regularly. But again, I find that balance really interesting, and trying here particularly to work more with the community to develop and you know, build our audience base so we get more visitors, but also so that we're doing more things outside of the museum as well.
Yep.
I think is something that's really, really interesting and really exciting for a place like this. And yes, we are a small site, but actually we can go out.
It's much more sort of making your presence bigger, you know, not physically with the museum, but obviously just being around town a bit more. And obviously you're by the park where it's got so much footfall. So it's just about getting people to find you really, because obviously you are kind of tucked away by Higginson Park, if anyone's coming to look, but you're so bright, it's like a circus. The building, it's like beautifully painted. So what brought you to Marlow Museum particularly? Because you're not from Marlow.
Yeah, no, I'm not from Marlow. So partly it was because I knew it was a really small museum and, you know, at the heart of community. And it was something that a place that I really wanted to kind of explore and to find out how the museum could work with the community and how we could kind of build that relationship. But also, actually, I have family in Princess Risborough, so I have kind of a family connection. So it's kind of en route between where I live in North Hampshire and where my family lives. So I'm kind of aware of it. And my parents grew up near here as well. I do love rowing too. I used to row. I rowed at uni too.
Have you rowed here?
I haven't rowed here.
No. Okay.
No, not yet.
You haven't got time, I'm sure. No. So when you first came, you were here from January, and what have been the changes? Because it's nearly, 10 months we're recording now. What are the biggest changes that you've been able to make and that were kind of on your list when you joined in January?
Yes, the biggest changes, I think, so straight away we were open a little bit more than we were. So we were now open on Fridays when we weren't previously. So that's been great. So we've been able to kind of welcome more visitors, which is fantastic. We've been recruiting more volunteers as well because we need to man the museum during that time. But my focus at the moment is recruiting volunteers to look after our collections.
Right.
So to really understand what's in those collections, how we use those collections, what stories we can tell from those collections, and how we can use those to connect with people. So that's where I'm building it at the moment. So it's all about how we can relate to the community and how we can support.
And if somebody wants to volunteer, can anybody come and volunteer? Are you kind of looking for particular ages or backgrounds, or anyone that has got obviously they're going to have an interest if they come here, but you teach them when they come here. They don't have to have too much knowledge about history.
No, there's absolutely no need to have any prior experience at all. I mean, obviously, any skills and expertise that people bring, we will happily utilize. But yeah, for people that are kind of manning the museum or front of house, then we give them all the training they need. For working with the collections, we give them all the training they need. We would really like to engage more with the schools.
I was just about to say, my next question was, how do you work with the schools?
Yeah, so that is where we're going. So we actually have quite a lot of young people interested in volunteering here, which is brilliant. And especially through the Duke of Edinburgh Awards.
Yeah.
So if people want to come and volunteer here for that, then they're very welcome to. And I'm looking at setting up a kind of youth panel so that we can have more young people making decisions about the museum, what the museum should be doing and how we make it relevant to them. So that's one of my focuses, that kind of learning and events, engagement program, development, and fundraising always.
Always, yeah. Do you do workshops in here as well? I know it's quite a small space.
Yeah, so at the moment, so we've just over the summer started doing more family activities. So during the school holidays, we'll do family activities in here, which are just drop in. So it's, there's quite a flow of things.
Yeah.
But we could do more workshops.
Yeah.
But we just need to have the volunteers to be able to support the delivery of that, or to have artists coming in and hopefully related to our collections and to the exhibitions and things. So we're building on it. But at the moment, most of what we're doing is outside of the museum. So we did, for example, a concert in July, which was related to our lace exhibition, which was a folk concert. So that was outside of the museum. And then we could, welcome many more people to it.
What is the connection with Marlow and lace?
Well, there's so much that connects Marlow and lace. Our history with lace goes back, 400 years to the lace school being set up by William Borlase. So when he set up the school for boys, where the boys learned kind of reading and writing and maths, English and maths, he set up a lace making school for girls and women. So they were kind of learning that craft at the same time, so that they had that kind of skill and were kind of economically active, I guess.
Keep women useful.
Yeah. Yes. As if they didn't do enough.
Yeah, exactly. Loads of times.
And so through the years, we've had lace makers here, we've had lace dealers here, and then kind of gradually as lace making became, or the kind of machine made, the craft started to die out and became endangered. And so more recently, we've been so lucky to have a lady called Pamela Nottingham, who lived in Marlow, who was just desperate to make lace and to learn how to make lace. And so she taught herself. She asked her, I think it was her milkman.
How long ago was this that she?
Oh gosh, so it must have been about 50 years ago.
Okay, yeah.
So she got lots of donations of kind of lace making kit to be able to kind of learn how to make lace. And through the years, she then became a kind of a well-known, kind of world-renowned lace maker, because she wrote books on actually how to learn to make lace and teach yourself to make lace. Whereas previously it had been a tradition passed down through your family. So that's the bit that had been dying out. And she really rejuvenated the craft. And she was from Marlow, and she used to sit outside the museum making lace every summer. And she volunteered here. And this is kind of a tribute to her as much as to kind of lace making and the history of lace making more generally in Marlow.
400 years ago. And what other, I mean, I know that you're not from Marlow, but obviously as you're spending more and more time here, what other really interesting facts about Marlow have you discovered? If I put you on the spot. Kind of, there seems like lots have a lot to do with where you're situated, by the river, obviously, to make things easier for transport before we had cars. So are there other things that you've discovered about Marlow that you could share?
Well, I think it is, there are so many things, to be honest, and there's just so much going on here, and people that are kind of really interested and proactive and engaged with things. And I think one of the things that I find really interesting is just the kind of the connection with the river. So we're just starting to do some oral history interviews with people that have lived in Marlow, and kind of looking at their history and how the town has changed. And we're thinking about Higginston Park and how important that has been to people, not just for the events that happen there, but just having that space being part of the community, and, snippets of people's memories of how the town has changed. And, having, I think it was in the 60s, there was a huge amount of snow apparently here, and all of the snow just got shoveled into Higginson Park, and so turned into this huge mountain of snow that was just stored there. I think, you know, the bridge is hugely important to the town. It has connections with Europe. And, you know, we've got a map here that actually shows a point where there were 2 bridges, which was only a really short snippet of time. And I think that those tiny little moments in time that we're able to preserve here at the museum, I think
so
are
interesting.
Really, really important for the town.
Yeah. And Higginson Park celebrates its 100th birthday next year. How involved are you with that, and what's going on with the museum?
Well, yeah, so we're trying to set up kind of an exhibition, hopefully in the parks. And like I said, where we're trying to be outside and kind of not necessarily just in our space here, but really connecting with people's experiences of the park and why the park is important to them. So it was somewhere that the community purchased the land for the community. So it was again, the community being proactive, preserving something that was important to them. And
they bought it from General Higginson.
General Higginson.
Yeah.
He's drawing here as well, so if you want to come and see that.
Yeah, come see it.
Yeah. But yeah, it's really about how the community have used it and how they have loved it and how it has become such a significant part of Marlow and what it means to be, you know, a part of the community in Marlow. So through these interviews as well that I mentioned, we're collecting memories of people who have used the park. We know that there was, you know, a preschool that was in the cricket pavilion. And so people kind of there every day, you know, how important, you know, just having that space is to people. So we're looking at the history of it and the actual process, but also, you know, that real kind of personal human relation.
Yeah, the stories about it. Amazing. Can you tell us what you've got planned for 2026 in the museum? You give some even sneak peeks.
So, I mean, we're really excited. So obviously the Higginson Park exhibition, that's going to be one of the things, but that's going to be primarily outside of the museum.
Yeah.
Inside the museum, we're again looking at, you know, really important human connections with the town. And one of the people that touched so many people's lives was Michael Eagleton, who had Chilt's Sounds, the record shop in the high street, and he was involved with Marlow FM. He was involved with the jazz club and the football club and the rehoming dogs in Stokenchurch, and, you know, just involved in so many things, and the museum and Marlow Society and Bucks Free Press doing the nostalgia pages. So
and there's lots of books here in the museum, isn't there?
Yeah, we've got the book here, and it's just somebody who really, you know, just represented so much of what Marlow does and what Marlow has to offer. We are focusing primarily on the music aspect because that was his real passion, was jazz music. So we're starting with that as our kind of core part of the exhibition. So we're hoping to hold some jazz amazing events throughout the summer. That'll be the summer next year, as well as loads of other engagement activities and engagement programs. It's going to be a really busy year with that and the Higginson exhibition. We're hoping to work more closely with the schools, do more family activities in the museum, and generally just be open a little bit more and out there. So if anybody wants to kind of have events in the museum or wants to have their private views, then we're very welcome to get
more involved with the museum. Find it and try and get involved.
Come and find it. Even if you just pop in for 2 minutes, know where it is. There are so many people who don't know where we are. So.
No, and it's a shame because it's always such a friendly, welcoming place to be. And how amazing to find out more about where you live.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great
where we live, not where you live. Thanks so much, Alice. It's been really good.
Thank you.
Thank you.